Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. We have been, or just had some technical issues, so we're going to restart. And we're streaming both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. We're going over two different discoveries of dinosaur footprints over in North America and Asia, as well as what's going on with Asiatic black bears over in East Asia, and what's going on with moose over in North America. So, staying in the Cenozoic era, as well as the Holocene epoch. So today. Asian News Network. Rare Asiatic black bear spotted in Bangladesh's Satari National Park. Species classified as vulnerable on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List. Well, this is good to hear. Satari National Park is located on the eastern border of northeastern Bangladesh, which is over in southern Asia, just east of the main core of India, but technically it's situated in between East India and Central India. So, Sachari National Park is a small national park that's located on the border of East India as well. So, likely we're having certain black bear populations coming in from East India that aren't usually monitored, as well as other creatures, maybe even tigers, possibly sloth bears might roam over here. This is towards the very eastern limit of the sloth bear's range. Possibly even elephants might make their way over too. A rare Asiatic black bear, Ursus the batonus, also known as the moon bear, has been spotted in the dense forest of Sachari National Park in Chanaragat Apazala Habigan. The sighting has prompted authorities to issue warnings to visitors about safety and to restrict free movement within the park. The discovery was made by Harris Deb Barma, a 30-year-old amateur photographer and member of the Tripura community. I couldn't believe such a rare species in this forest when I first saw it. I immediately took a photo, and after consulting with zoologists, I confirmed it was indeed an Asiatic black bear. S- Um, so some might confuse this national park as being adjacent to the mangrove swamps of southern Bangladesh, but this is not really anywhere near that specific ecosystem. Even though both are in Bangladesh, that ecosystem is more well known for the Sundarban tigers, which are a bit more experts or they're better at ambush when it comes to water habitats as opposed to certain other tiger populations further inland, especially in different parts of interior Bangladesh as well as different areas of India. But the Asiatic black bear in this range is possibly a bit smaller compared to other populations because food can be a little more challenging to come by. And especially when you're talking about different species of ants and termites that this animal regularly feeds on, though it will go after different species of deer or primates, such as monkeys in the region. And they get to somewhere around 400 pounds or a little over 180 kilograms. They do feed on a wide range of different species of fruit too, especially the jackfruit, depending on where they are. But jackfruit tend to be found in more semi-arid regions with the sloth bears in India. Beat Officer Mamuner Rashid said this endangered species of Asiatic black bear. He would be subspecies. They are globally vulnerable. They are rarely seen and very aggressive in nature. Yeah, as we can see what's going on in Japan, same species and going after people. We estimate there are 10 to 12 such bears, both large and small, in the park. We are taking additional steps to preserve them and are cautioning tourists about potential risks. Oh, okay. It's interesting. So it's kind of like what's happened recently over in South Korea, where there has been a slight influx of Asiatic black bears in that specific country, likely coming in from Eastern Korea and as well great deal of northeastern China. So let's see. That's good to hear. These bears, known for their distinctive V or half moon shaped white patch on their chests, belong to the carnivorous family but mainly feed on insects, fruits, and honey. There's a wide range of different species of omnivores today. Practically, well, I wouldn't say every species of omnivore. Horses, zebras, deer are not members of carnivora, but animals such as otters, hyenas, bears, badgers, wolves, primates like us are all members of carnivora. Yeah, the deer will eat birds. I wonder if they're probably there's likely been a lot of debate into sticking many species of what are recognized as mainly herbivores into carnivora, considering there is footage of white-tailed deer, possibly elk, definitely horses, camels, um, who else? Possibly bighorn sheep feeding on raw meat, baby birds, bones. So, Mid or MD Rizal Karim Chowdhury, former divisional forest officer in Salat, said there were once four species of bear in the subcontinent, three of which were found in Bangladesh. Now, only two species remain both critically endangered. Habitat destruction, hunting, smuggling, and food shortages have brought them to the brink of extinction. Probably the food shortages coming in with the habitat destruction. Unless they were just feeding off of crops for the most part in certain instances. I'm guessing what he's referring to by the four species are the Asiatic black bear, the sun bear, the sloth bear. Um, I don't believe the panda. You might have had certain brown bears occasionally make it to Bangladesh, but they likely would have stayed further north in areas of like Western China and northern India, but not really hitting into Pakistan, unless there's a certain other I can't think of another species of, bear that would have inhabited the area. Maybe further back in time, but that's been, at least 11,000 years. So at one time, okay, so these bears thrived in the mixed evergreen hill forests of Salet and Chattogram. Now only a few remain in the deep forest, struggling to survive. Publicizing their presence could pose serious risks to their safety, as it may attract hunters. Muhammad Robin Mia, Upazila Narabi officer of Chanarugat. So it's like gone from India to name pronunciation challenges to the Philippines, and now we're in Bangladesh. We must ensure these bears are neither hunted nor smuggled. Additionally, we need to create a sustainable food supply for their survival and engage local communities in conservation efforts. Well, also the whole bear biofarms is a big thing in different parts of Southeast Asia.
What is that?
It's basically they're kind of locked up in a cage and they extract the bile from their gallbladder. Um, so the Wildlife Conservation and Security Act of 2012 protects endangered species in Bangladesh, making hunting, killing, or harming them a punishable offense. I'm not sure if that industry takes place there, but definitely like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, possibly China. Um, okay, well, I'm glad that they saw these bears over in Bangladesh. Hopefully, the population increases. So let's head over to or back in time. So from Sci News, what's going on here? Tracks provide new information about mid-Cretaceous paleoclimate. Paleontologists have examined a large assemblage of dinosaur tracks and fossilized plants from the Nenishuk Formation, which cropped out over much of the central and western north slope of Alaska, varying from 1,500 to 250 meters or 4,921 to 820 feet thick from west to northeast. Not sure what it's referring to by that as. Like, elevation? Could be talking about part of, it's not hitting me where specifically the Nanashuk Formation is in Alaska. It could be adjacent to the Brooks Range Mountains, which are sometimes referred to as like the Northern Rocky Mountains. They're not part of
That's
the
a
Rocky
strange way to state something.
Well, this looks like some large theropod, and it is, yeah, some large theropod footprint. I'm guessing it's some species of smaller tyrannosaur in the region. And the Nanashuk Formation, I believe this is occurring during the early Cretaceous, somewhere around 120 million years ago during the Aptian stage. So, what's going on here? We've had projects for the last 20 years in Alaska trying to integrate sedimentology, dinosaur paleontology, and the paleoclimate indicators, said University of Alaska Fairbanks professor Paul McCarthy. We've done work in three other formations in Denali on the North Slope and in Southwest Alaska, and they're about 70 million years old.
Dinosaur lover says, "Hola, cool."
Yeah, it is really good to see all of these different footprints popping up in Alaska. Now, 70 million years ago, apparently, is the Maastrichtian stage. Well, it's not surprising. It's just unless it's referring to the other formation, I swear that one's older. This new one is in a form. Oh, that wasn't hitting me. Okay, I mixed it up with something else. That's about 90 to 100 million years old. Okay, so this is during the early late Cretaceous, the first 10 million years of this point. And this is when you start seeing more evidence of smaller species of tyrannosaurs occurring over North America. So, what interested us about looking at rocks of this age is this is roughly the time that people think of as the beginning of the Bering land bridge, the connection between Asia and North America. So, this is situated between Russia and Alaska. This was a major land bridge, especially during the Ice Age or the Pleistocene epoch over 400,000 years ago for different populations of woolly mammoths, steppe mammoths, Eurasian cave lions, different species of bisons, how bison reached North America, um, and the Eurasian cave lions as well, and people. So we want to know who was using it, how they were using it, and what the conditions were like. Okay, so since we're here, let's bring up a small species of Tyrannosaur. It's not necessarily even very stocky. This is how certain species were built at the time, but technically we had more like skinnier sort of tyrannosaurs occurring throughout throughout the Tyrannosaur's evolution. So Timurlengia, Timurlengia. Yeah, so Timurlengia did exist in different parts of Alaska back in the early late Cretaceous. I'm not exactly sure about the Asdarkid pterosaurs in this specific picture, though there are quite a variety of the yeah, the Asdarkid pterosaur lineage that occurred over in different parts of Asia, Europe, as well as North America during the Cretaceous period. The Tyrannosaurs evolved during the mid Jurassic period, around 165 million years ago. And they started out as not really being much more than 6.6 feet in length or about 2 meters. Probably not weighing much more than 100 pounds either, pushing around 45 kilograms. This AI one's a bit off. Maybe for a chick, it would be okay. But besides that, I would there were much more stockier or much stockier different species of tyrannosaurs that existed beforehand, such as Zhu Shang tyrannus. Let's see who else. Oh, I guess we can bring up another.
Kind of blurry, but
Oh, is this somebody's reconstruction of Timurlengia? Well, I think he has somewhat stocky legs, but it seems to be that that's what they're going for. Um, I mean, it's a bit blurry, but it is very possible that Timorlangia, due to its smaller size, where it existed, despite it being the early late Cretaceous and there being a slight bit of a warm phase occurring, but this was a bit more present a bit earlier into the Cretaceous. It's likely that they were covered in feathers, despite at the moment there not being any evidence for Timorlangia um, with skin fragments showing that they had feathers. Let's see. Looking at this AI picture, the problem is that it almost looks like some species of Ostroraptor or even Megaraptor. Though the Tyrannosaurs, Megaraptors, and um the specific family that would contain Ostroraptor are all members of the Coelurosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs. This is a bit far off, so it seems a bit like a hybrid. Like someone added a lot more I guess, muscle or just well, what it wouldn't be just muscle. Like even for an osteoraptor, the neck is quite robust. Like an osteoraptor would have a much thinner skull structure, maybe like half the um maybe diameter of the upper jaw. Maybe slightly decrease the bottom jaw as well. But overall, it would be too robust. For a Timorlangia, however, it's just too long of a jaw structure. I think it also would be slightly more robust, and there's also something too, um, slightly too raptor, or what would it be? You could say even Megaraptor-like for the back of the skull. It's not really it has very little even early Tyrannosaur sort of physiology. Not even along the lines of like Guanlong or Dilong over in, late Jurassic China. So that would be quite off. Also, the arms are far too large. That they're a bit closer to something like a species of Megaraptor from South America, Australia, like Australivinator. Okay, let's go back to the article. So the mid Cretaceous was the hottest point in the Cretaceous period, and an Ashuk formation gives us a snapshot of what a high latitude ecosystem looks like on a warmer Earth. The Nanushuk Formation dates to roughly 94 to 113 million years ago in the mid Cretaceous period, and about when the Bering Land Bridge began. There were still cooling events that did occur throughout this time, and later into the Cretaceous after this point, there would be a massive drop in global temperatures. Um, but definitely and as well before this time, it was slightly cooler. I'd say like during the early Cretaceous, somewhere around 135 to 140 million years ago, it was even cooler as well. The fieldwork occurred between 2015 and 2017 and centered on Coke Basin, a circular geologic feature of the formation. The basin is in the DeLong Mountains foothills along the uh, Kukparuk River, about 100 kilometers or 60 miles south of Point Lay and 32 kilometers or 20 miles inland from the Chukchi Sea. Well, it's not that far from the Chukchi Sea. There's polar bears on the Chukchi Sea. In the area, the paleontologists found approximately 75 fossil tracks. Whoa. Oh, wow. And specifically, it seems like these theropod footprints for the most part, though we don't know at the moment. And other indicators attributed to dinosaurs living in a riverine or delta setting. This place was just crazy rich with dinosaur footprints. One site stands out, said Dr. Anthony Fioril, a researcher at the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science. We were at a spot where we eventually realized that for at least 366 meters or 400 yards, we were walking on ancient landscape. On that landscape, we found large upright trees with little trees in between and leaves on the ground. We had tracks on the ground, fossilized species. Interesting. So apparently they found coprolite too.
A whole
Um,
bunch of stuff fossilized really fast.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they recognize that it was coprolite though, because coprolite can be a bit challenging to identify, depending on what it is. I think I've heard in some instances that they can mistake it for tree roots, or certain other paleontologists. We found
Wait,
new.
they mistake it for certain other paleontologists?
Um, that's one ugly paleontologist. We found numerous fossilized tree stumps, some 60 meters or 2 feet in diameter. It was just like we were walking through the woods of millions of years ago. That would be a sad conifer forest if that were the case. I don't think we would find any large herds of different species of ornithopods in the region. This was before different species of duck-billed dinosaurs or hadrosaurs. Many species of ceratopsians or horned dinosaurs would have evolved. Technically, the ceratopsians already existed, but they were much fewer in number and the overall variety of their morphology. It would skyrocket shortly after this point. Um, the tyrannosaurs had already existed in different parts of Asia and as well as Europe. So let's see. So the Nanushuk Formation encompasses rock of marine and non-marine characteristics and composition, but the new research focuses primarily on the non-marine sediments exposed along the upper Kukparuk River. One of the one of the things we did in our paper was look at the relative frequencies of the different kinds of dinosaurs. What was interesting to us was that the bipedal plant eaters were clearly the most abundant. I wonder what they found here. I'm guessing ornithopods. Two-legged plant eaters accounted for 59% of the total tracks discovered. I'm guessing that's referring to them. Four-legged plant eaters accounted for 17%. Wonder who that was supposed to refer to. Maybe ceratopsians? There were different species of ceratopsians like Pachyrhinosaurus existing in Alaska back in the, I'd say, about 15 million years after this point. Well, 94 million years ago, maybe slightly later, maybe like 16, 17 million years. With birds accounting for 15%. That's a lot. And non avian, mostly carnivorous bipedal dinosaurs at 9%. That makes sense. I mean, you would have it where the species of carnivorous theropods that are hunting the herbivores are going to be much less common. If you have a lot of fish eaters, however, maybe they would show up as being a larger percentage. But that doesn't seem to be the case, knocking aside the birds. One of the things that was interesting is the relative frequency of bird tracks. Yeah, it's quite immense. At this point, there were birds had been around for over somewhere between 50 to 60 million years. First evolving in the late Jurassic around 150 million years ago with Archaeopteryx. And by the early Cretaceous, they were flourishing 140 million years ago. So, carbon isotope analysis of wood samples led to a determination that the region received about 178 centimeters or 70 inches of precipitation annually. That's a lot. I mean, it's definitely like not to the extent of certain temperate rainforests of today, like over in Alaska, British Columbia, but um, it's still a decent amount. It's more than many areas of the earth. Probably massive floodplains in the regions where the animals would feed, especially the herbivores. This record of increased precipitation during the mid Cretaceous provides new data that supports global precipitation patterns associated with the Cretaceous thermal maximum. The Cretaceous thermal maximum was a long term trend approximately 90 million years ago, in which average global temperatures were significantly higher than those of today. The temperature was much warmer than it is today, and what's possibly more interesting is that it rained a lot. Well, depending on where you were, there were deserts that were present in different parts of the world, especially certain areas of Asia. They were a bit more present in North America back in the Jurassic, especially the late Jurassic, around 150 to 160 million years ago, where you would have had much of what is known as the Morrison Formation be covered in a vast region of like arid to semi arid areas and pretty bad dry seasons, despite um, containing different species of large sauropods like Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus. But this is quite interesting. Okay. Well, this is good to see. Unfortunately, we only saw a footprint. I would like to see the whole scenario.
Yeah, why didn't they show more?
Yeah, it is very annoying. Okay, well, let's head forward in time to the Cenozoic era of today and see what's going on, maybe another part of the world. From retro1025.com. So watch big moose run through crowd at Winter Park. Guessing, okay, what is this? Moose was on the loose. Haha. In Colorado's Winter Park Ski Resort in February of 2025. The moose startled skiers, and the skiers definitely angered slash scared the moose. I said argued for a second. Let's see. So moose jogs slash runs through crowd at Winter Park. I don't care how much you love animals in nature. If I saw a moose moving faster than a stroll, I would be scared out of my pants. Okay. Cries of "watch out" are heard in this video. If I were there, cries of "get me out of here" would be heard. Why? You must admire this scenario. Okay, well,
What's with the picture?
I don't know. Um, okay, let's see. Let's go down. Located in the Arapaho Roosevelt National Forest. Winter Park Rose. Winter Park Resort is beautiful, but also potentially dangerous. Okay, so I believe this is located adjacent to like Fort Collins, northern Denver, Morris, renowned national forest in northern Colorado, Medicine Bout Route National Forest. Okay, well, let's see what occurred. Wow, he really is in the middle of the area. I'm guessing it's a he. He probably just lost um, his antlers shortly beforehand, depending on when this occurred.
Does he have a humpback?
Oh, that's natural for the moose and their immense, not just shoulder blades, but specifically the upper shoulder vertebrae in the region. Kind of like with what you see in grizzly bears. So immense shoulder muscles in that area.
Does that help with holding their antlers?
Um, I need to double check on that. I believe that's more to do with the neck muscles.
Are we sure he's not looking for a cookie or
Um,
hot chocolate at a
he
ski resort?
he definitely wants some carbohydrates, considering he's going through a really tough time. He's mostly munching on different, just twigs, bits of bark at this point. Maybe he's even going after spruce or pine needles, which moose are pretty much the only large mammal to do so in the winter in North America, Europe, Asia. Well, I'm glad everybody was okay. I think a couple people fell over, but I guess when you're on skis, you can't really move. Okay. Is there anything else? Oh, I think that was it. Okay. Well, hopefully that moose was okay, and he's able to obtain, or he's now obtaining more food. So let's head back in time from Sci News. So, 106 million year old pterosaur footprints discovered in Korea. So, this is not a dinosaur, but did coexist with several different species of dinosaurs in Asia at the time, whatever this pterosaur was. A set of Neo as darkened pterosaur footprints discovered in South Africa is offering a rare glimpse into
South Africa.
South Korea. Um, yeah, there were different species of pterosaurs and dinosaurs over in South Africa. I don't know of any from this point in the Cretaceous at the moment. At least it's not hitting me. Offering a rare glimpse into some how some of the largest flying reptiles may have hunted on land. This is definitely your typical Asdarkid pterosaur from the early Cretaceous, though they could be a bit larger. They first evolved somewhere around 140 million years ago. There have been numerous different species coming in from Asia, usually reaching about the height of a person or some slightly taller, so about 6.6 feet or 2 meters, or for a small proportion of people. Let's see. What else was I getting at? Oh, well, despite them only being about your height, I think many people, when they think of the pterosaurs, they're much taller or they're very small. As darkids, many of these species, they had quite robust neck and jaw structures. It's best to avoid them or completely armored. For being an armored vehicle, they had very powerful beaks, and certain species would hunt smaller species of dinosaurs, as well as even go after crocodilomorphs or sometimes even certain marine reptiles. But probably the very the smaller youngsters in the ocean. So pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight, are often imagined soaring above ancient seas. But for decades, paleontologists have argued that some pterosaur species also spent considerable time on the ground, stalking prey like modern wading birds. Well, they're talking about certain pterosaurs, like unless it's comparing the pterosaur to storks in Africa, like the Malibu storks, which is certainly possible. Maybe even the shoebills, though the Asdarkids would have hunted birds in general, but even small dinosaurs. So we don't know how large this specific species is. Direct evidence of such behavior, however, has been elusive. Pterosaurs were key components from or of Mesozoic ecosystems thriving from the late Triassic to the end of the Cretaceous, said Dr. Hung Yun Hung, a researcher at the University of Texas at Austin and Korea Dinosaur Research Center at Konam National University and colleagues. Okay. What was I going to get at with this? Let's bring up a species of theropod dinosaur from Asia around this point, slightly earlier. Siam raptor. So SIAM. Oh, it just came up. So this animal it's possible it existed over in the Korea region or maybe even certain parts of eastern China.
Okay, your favorite first?
Right. Yeah, definitely yeah, both of these animals are quite off. I'd say the main carnivore standing over what looks to be it has like a Spinosaur, Pliosaur, Dolichoryncops, and possibly a Tyrannosaur. Looking at it, has 2 fingers on its forelimbs, sort of a hybrid. Yeah, none of these animals existed. I'd say the Spinosaur looks a bit like the early 2010s model. Okay. So this is Siam raptor. So it is a member of the Carnosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs, more of the Allosauridae lineage. So this was a species of Carcharodontosaur that existed over in Laos, so adjacent to Vietnam and Cambodia around 115 million years ago during the early Cretaceous. Unfortunately, this model does not have lips, but it's possibly just an older depiction of the Siam raptor. It's still a really good look. This is not Siam raptor, but it is a close relative that wouldn't evolve for another 20 million years. This is Carcharodontosaurus from northern Africa, so different parts of Egypt, Morocco, possibly Chad that this animal comes from, maybe even Niger. But Siam raptor was somewhere around 25 to 30 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere around 7.8 to 9 meters. Carcharodontosaurus, however, was pushing over 42 feet in length, or around 13 meters, like it weighed 8 tons. The Siam raptor is probably pushing somewhere around 2 tons. Yeah, SAI model's pretty far off. It's kind of like somebody mixed in Allosaurus with a Torvosaurus to an extent. I'm just looking at the skull structure. The overall body might be a bit closer to an Allosaurus. However, its feet are a bit more Tyrannosaur like. I think the arms are very Allosaur in just accumulation or the morphology. Yet there's an iguanodonted in the background. There were different species of iguanodontids at this point over in East Asia. They weren't necessarily uncommon. The hadrosaurs, however, had not evolved yet, and true hadrosaurs won't evolve until the later late Cretaceous, around 83 million years ago. Now, iguanodon itself only existed over in different parts of England as well as possibly Germany, Belgium, but not over in East Asia. So Siam raptor is likely feeding on different species of iguanodontids at this point, as well as sauropods. Okay, so they occupied a wide range of ecological niches and exhibited diverse dietary adaptations. In particular, Neoasdarchiae, which includes thalassodromids, chowing, chowingopterids, and asdarchids, has been inferred to represent predominantly terrestrial carnivorous hunters based on anatomical features, functional morphology, and other associated fossil records. The Changoopterids of the Neosdarchia lineage of pterosaurs sounds like a couple of paleontologists were sitting in a Chinese restaurant. They saw a part of the menu and they thought, you know what? I know we're supposed to be taking a break, but this would be great for a lineage of pterosaurs. Let's name it Chowang. Um, just leave out, the chicken and rice, and it'll be good. I have no idea what that means, but it definitely sounds like it. These interpretations have suggested that some groups may have employed hunting strategies comparable to extant terrestrial stalkers, such as storks or cranes. Here's the freaky thing about storks, especially. Cranes, not so much. Cranes tend to feed on different species of insects. They'll go after not leopards. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible. Maybe a abandoned cub, but um, different species of amphibians and lizards. Storks, however,
Wait a minute, you confused amphibians and lizards with a leopard?
yeah. Um, Storks, however, will go up to like weak flamingos in some instances, like over in the soda lakes of different parts of South America, but Africa is really where I'm thinking of. And I believe it was over in Tanzania where it occurred, and they'll peck it. And well, it's weird because it kind of like just sort of stabs it a little bit, and then starts pulling its innards out. So um these creatures would have likely have done something similar. So, nevertheless, the fossil record has so far lacked direct evidence of terrestrial predation in pterosaurs. Okay. So here are the fossil footprints. Yeah, it's definitely showing that quadrupedal motion. They were quite nimble on land, though. Pterosaurs were not slow walkers, very nimble, and had a very efficient ability to rise up into the air. The newly described footprints preserved in 106 million year old rock in the Jinju Formation may help fill this gap. Also, there might have been instances like where pelicans today and they have their extended pouch on their bottom jaw. You might have had certain species of pterosaurs, but this might have been the case for different species of the more piscivorish sort of pteranodontids of the Cretaceous. Now, it was certainly possible, kind of like with today in pelicans, where they try to engulf. Well, they do engulf pigeons whole. Sometimes they try to go after smaller mammals. They've done it. Well, it's not just pelicans. There are certain other semi-aquatic birds that will engulf carp that seems to be larger than their whole core whole. So it might have been the case with certain species of as darkids as well. But there has to be certain morphological analyses to make that a bit more logical. So just because some pterosaurs did not have that ability. So assigned to a new ichnogenus and species, Hinhuicnus proceras. These large asymmetrical impressions with elongated digits were left by a Neo-Asdarchian pterosaur. The flying reptile's footprints run in close proximity to a separate set of tracks likely made by a small ground dwelling animal, possibly a salamander or lizard, raising the possibility of a prehistoric pursuit. The animal's trackway shows an abrupt change in direction and a noticeable increase in stride length, suggesting a sudden burst of speed. At the same time, the pterosaur appears to have been moving relatively quickly for its size. I mean, yeah, around zero point 0.8 meters a second. I'm guessing that's somewhere around like 2.7 or 2.8 feet in a second. It's definitely moving.
Doesn't seem very fast.
Well, I mean, if he only has a wingspan of somewhere around 5 to 6 feet or pushing around 1.8 meters, it certainly is possible. Yeah, I'm just trying to think I don't know, maybe it's just a basic walk. This is consistent with the hypothesis that Neodarkins were well adapted terrestrial predators. However, a coincidental association between the two trackways cannot be ruled out. This association provides the potential ichnological evidence of terrestrial vertebrate interaction by a pterosaur. Nonetheless, an alternative interpretation of the two trackways remains possible, making it difficult to confirm any direct interaction between the track makers. So I guess they're trying to figure out whether or not there was some sort of a scenario going on between two different species of pterosaurs, possibly. The paired trackways offer insight into the factors to consider when evaluating potential interactions with the trackmaker. While scenarios such as predation remain ambiguous, they nonetheless highlight the interpretive complexity inherent in assessing behavioral associations preserved in trackway assemblages. Um, that restaurant joke made me forget we were in Korea. So, actually, let's bring up another large theropod dinosaur that used to inhabit a bit further south. So, Ichthyovenator, Ichthyovenator. So there were different species of spinosaurs that used to inhabit Southeast Asia, especially over in regions of Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand is where they are heavily known from. Usually spinosaurs tend to be more associated with different parts of Western Europe, such as England with baryonyx, Southern Europe with a more recently discovered species of spinosaur closely related to baryonyx, and as well North Africa, like over in Egypt with Suchomimus and Spinosaurus as well as the new species Spinosaurus. This is closer to a Spinosaurus. It likely didn't have that type of a like an overextended layer of skin along its tail. Now, the rest of the body is okay, but I think the sail needs to be much longer and also a bit taller compared to its body size.
That one's shorter.
Yeah, that's an interesting model of an ichthyovenator. It's far too stiff. I mean, um,
What is a
I
picture of it? I mean, it's not moving.
yeah, are there okay, oh, it's the same one. Oh, I think this is one of those early 2010s models. Not sure what to say about it. It's got issues. Um, that distinct like gap in between the vertebrae, it does exist to an extent. It's just arranged a bit differently. Also, Ichthyovenator didn't have as long of hind legs compared to its body size, like what's showing here. This is what was going on for a wide variety of different species of spinosaurs.
This guy's fat.
Yeah, during the early 2000s and the early 2010s. This is better. Yeah, the enlarged height of the back vertebrae, as well as just behind that gap. The arms are much closer to a Spinosaurus. It is interesting because Ichthyovenator, despite it having a very short back vertebrae compared to its body size, it's not necessarily closely related to Baryonyx and Suchomimus as much, but they barely have an elongated back vertebra. They practically don't. So this belongs to a different subfamily of Spinosaurs. It is interesting. Ichthyovenator has a very distinct lineage of um or an array of teeth at the tip of its snout. This is not something you really see in Spinosaurus. It's definitely not something you really see in Baryonyx, Suchomimus. Even Sigillomosaurus further south, which is a bit closer to the size of Spinosaurus, didn't have this tooth
Why does he
dentition.
look like a track star?
Um, yeah, he's this one really is confused. Just in his overall look, it's better. This is like what happened to Spinosaurus, for a little bit in the 2000s, where they gave it this very wide sort of a just a physique like this individual, but it was still pretty far off. Yeah, too long of legs compared to its body size. The head doesn't seem to be terrible in this situation. It's unfortunate that they don't have lips, but leaving that to the side, I think the elongated back vertebrae is a bit tall. It's probably 40% taller than what it should be. Also a bit long too. There really is a definite stop in the back vertebrae of the Ichthyovenator. I mean, you could even say that with Spinosaurus, but this one not so much. There's not really evidence for osteoderms occurring on the back of any species of Spinosaurs that we know of at the moment. Okay, let's head. Wait. Huh? Oh, okay. So, thanks for joining. And we're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And from Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.